Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective. With Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Before I reveal our guest, and some of you watching the video are like, I don't see a guest. That's because we had a little techno difficulty, but it's okay because she is with us, even though you can't see her, just like people and animals on the other side. Hint, hint, wink, wink about the topic. Anyway, before we get started, I wanted to give a little of my shameless self-promotion and just remind you that if you're developing your psychic mediumship or channeling, that I offer private tutoring. I offer it via Zoom, which is sort of like Skype. And so it's face-to-face and you can study from wherever you are in the world. I have a 3-tiered private mediumship certification program. The first level is academic plus exercises. The second level is strictly exercises with me. And the third level, I'll bring in guinea pigs and work with you to help you kindly develop your abilities working actually in situ. So there's that. I also offer channeling and any kind of, even if you're just getting started, I do work one-on-one with people. I also have a 12-week certification program. It's designed to give 3 levels of certification to you. It's taught twice a year. And it's a group situation, although I do offer that one privately as well. And I have a channeling class that I teach, twice a year, 4 weeks and 4 weeks. So group setting. So let me know if you're interested, and you can find out more information at mediumtraceylockwood.com. Well, the mystery guest is behind the scenes. And before I tell you who she is, I want to tell you just a little bit about her. First of all, she is an animal intuitive. And that's kind of an expanded definition of an animal communicator or an animal, animal whisperer or something like that. She's literally an animal intuitive. And she talks to animals in a skill that I don't run into too many people that do. I do, but I don't, it's odd because she's really chosen this as a specialty. And she talks to them in spirit as well as here in the physical world to find out what's going on for them and tap into all kinds of things that we're going to be talking about in the show. She's a Reiki master, and she has dedicated her Reiki practice specifically to working with animals. And she offers private communication and healing sessions for animals. And she used to teach fine art photography, and she's now teaching animal communication also. So, and she'll be offering some more things as time goes along, so you'll want to keep an eye out for what she has to offer. She has a weekly blog, and she calls her fellow animal intuitive strong hearts. And I love that term. And I'd like to welcome to the show, Sigrira. Welcome to the show, Sigrira.
Thank you, Tracey. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so happy to have you. For our listeners, if you would like to give them your full name.
Sure. My full name is Sigrira Perechentil-Savitsky, but I just go by Sigrira Animal Intuitive. It's a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And a lot of our listeners are curious. They like to kind of check up on people during the show, kind of snoop about, so they can find you on your website at Sigrira, Sigrira.com. That's Sigrira. Sigrira. 2 I's and an A as you spell that. Sigrira.com. Okay? So, well, you are here. And I'm so excited to talk to you. And I'm sorry that our technology had a little blip and I can't get your video on the page with us, but we can hear you.
That's okay. I'm so happy to be here with you, and that's okay about the video.
Oh, thank you so much. So what I was thinking, because I call this show From a Medium's Perspective and started it with the intent of sharing the inside world of what we do with other people that might have curiosity about it, I was curious as to how working as an animal intuitive, and healer, how has that given you a different perspective on life?
It has really informed everything I do, because I've always just loved animals so much, and being able to communicate with them at this level has even, I've always saw them as complete equals, and I've never recognized the species hierarchy, but this goes beyond even that, because I've been able to realize that from an energetic or a spiritual perspective, they truly are more aware than us humans, and they have so much to teach us.
Yeah, they do. They do. I love the perspective of the other side and the continuation of life and the fact that it's all accessible. It's just kind of incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I wondered, you mentioned a term that went by really fast, and I believe that you called it the ecological hierarchy. I was trying to find it on my page, but you told me. Talk to us a little bit about what you mean by the hierarchy. What is that?
Yes. What I was talking about with not recognizing a species hierarchy, I'm basically referring to what most of us are taught when we're young, that we sort of get this image of a pyramid. And you see, if you can imagine the pyramid, the human is always at the pinnacle. And then there's like the layers below, like the one below might be maybe companion animals. Yeah, of course, like dogs, cats, maybe a dolphin, and then it kind of keeps going down to farm animals, plant life, etc. And for me, I see it as a circle. I really don't see one species as being above the other at all. So I believe that having this, not recognizing the hierarchy, has really made it easier for me to communicate with animals, because I feel like to be able to communicate with an open heart, we really have to be able to feel love and respect for who we are communicating with. And it's hard to do that if we don't recognize them as equals.
Yeah. I was fortunate because I was given a lot of freedom in childhood to be outside and to connect with both nature and animals. My mom, when we moved to Farmville, Virginia, was pretty wrapped up with, taking care of my newborn brother. And my dad was a professor and he was off at school. And so I had a lot of time to really reflect, and she didn't let me watch TV. That wasn't something we did. I really had time to really feel and connect. And I'm curious what your what was your story? Tell us a story about how you ended up doing this.
Yeah, I think connecting with nature was better than watching TV. So that sounds like a good childhood to me.
No remorse. I hardly watch it now. It's too much on and fun,
Well, since you mentioned your childhood, I'll just say a little bit about mine. I grew up on a small, tiny island in the Caribbean named Curacao, and I grew up really with animals as, I thought of them as my siblings. I was an only child, and I had an uncle who loved animals. So we had, like, not just dogs, we had goats and rabbits and chickens. And I was the child who would, like, at a birthday party, I would be sitting under the table with the dog, hanging out, because I always felt most comfortable with
Right?
the
The
animals.
animals were the most interesting beings in the room. Yes. I get that. I get that.
And I've actually I have found out since I don't have a lot of memories of when I was less than 6 years old, when I was really young, but some of the animals that I knew then, I've communicated with them in spirit since then, and they've told me that we communicated very clearly, and they would take care of me. Like, my grandparents' driveway was really long, and it would get very shadowy, and I was a little bit afraid of the dark. And this one dog named Heather, she kind of looked like Lassie. She was a collie, and so she was bigger than me. And she gave me a glimpse of this conversation we had where I voiced my concern, and she basically told me that the shadows couldn't hurt me and that she would bite them if they tried. So they would talk to me as a child. It was really sweet and,
that's
you know,
so
protective.
precious. What a beautiful message. What a beautiful message from them to you.
It was really sweet. And then they helped me to kind of tune down my ability a little bit, or tone it down a little bit as I grew up, because I think it would have been too hard for me to sort of have a normal life, you know, where animals really weren't seen as equals, and, you know, generally. So it was only, about 2010 when I sort of reawakened to being able to communicate with animals. And it was actually in a session with Jamie Butler, who's a wonderful medium. She's been on your show too. She has.
I've been on her show. Yeah.
Yes, and I had also learned, you know, kind of rediscovered mediumship and learned Reiki from her. And I had this one session with her in 2010, and my the same uncle who's now in spirit came through, and basically said, you know, you can do this, right? And I was like, no. I just really didn't realize that I could do it. It was so exciting. And Jamie lent me this book. I think it was Straight from a Horse's Mouth from Amelia Kincaid. And I read it in one day. And then I just, you know, read a bunch of books and went to workshops. But ultimately, I had to figure out my own way of doing it, because I think, you know, we get inspired by others, and you know, it's good to learn from everyone, but then you find your own unique, you know, way that works out perfectly for you.
Real and authentic, and make it ours, you know, own it, not by cloning, but by interpretation. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just been a dream come true. My favorite superhero growing up was Aquaman, because he could communicate with the creatures of the sea. So being able to do this myself really truly is a dream come true for me. I'm so happy that I get to do it, and I take it really seriously. I understand what a responsibility it is, you know, to get messages to people from their companions. And you know, a lot of situations could be very serious, like, you know, end of life type situations, and then some are more, you know, light. But no matter what the situation is, it's, you know, I really feel honored to be able to help interspecies families communicate better with each other.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of lightly dusting on an aspect of what you do that I was kind of tickled when I found you and heard this about you. I'm sort of coming out from under a rock somewhere. And I don't know who's doing everything in the world, kind of thing, but I have run into several animal communicators. I don't know about Jamie, but you know, I've run into several that do communicate with animals, and I think that they still adhere to that pyramid a little bit. And I know in a reading that I had a lady bring physical dogs into my office, and I'm just reading for the lady. Like, I wasn't even thinking about the dogs. They were old. They were laid down on the ground. Didn't matter, you know. And her female dog clairvoyantly transformed into this Native American man and started talking to me about his past life as a human with her,
Wow.
and talking
Mhm.
about their life in the village and how they fought together, but they weren't warriors, and very specific things about that lifetime. And the thing that really touched me is that he ended that, or she, female dog, by saying that she had been afraid to come back into the physical world. So
Hmm.
he chose to come back as a female dog, to be abused, to be rescued by her, to learn the soul lesson that life does continue after trauma, and that there is joy and love after a bad time in our lives. And I
Wow.
went home, my head was blown. I was just, oh my God, like it never, my dad was raised
Mhm.
in India, and, you know, he was used to seeing cattle and thinking of them as, you know, the view that they were people that
Mhm.
lived before the ancestors or something. And I just had never processed that, and as much as I felt
Mhm.
close to animals, and it just opened up a whole nother world. So I want to get your story on,
Mhm.
besides just the technical aspects of that, how, and you go beyond that too. So we're going to get there too. But what about those past lives with animals? Tell me some of the,
Yes.
like, what was the first time it happened to you, if you can recall that, and then when you recognized that that was what was the deal, and then any interesting nuts and bolts that you can share with us.
Sure. And that was beautiful about the dog that presented herself to you. But yeah, I one of the things that I do in sessions is I do a lot of people want to know about past lives that they have shared with their animals, those are actually really fun for me because I love they show them to me almost like small movies or still images, and I see them in my with my third eye.
Yep.
And yeah, I absolutely I don't know if I can think of a first time, but I've always sort of, I think since I've started communicating with them, it's never
Known it.
been, in an order. And a lot of animals show me that they've been humans together with their, with their parents or their human companions. And I think the thing that surprised me probably even more is when they've shown me lifetimes as other like star beings or beings from other planetary or star systems. I think that was the really big surprise for me because I wasn't expecting that so much.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Yeah.
I had, and so it's been, one dog told me that he was basically like an Arcturian guide for his human in a past life, and he was still very, very protective of her. And I've even had some of their guides show up, and sometimes they are, all
Animals
different
guide.
types of
Yes.
beings. And I don't even know what they all are, but it's always, I feel like I learn something from every single one I communicate with.
Oh, that's so incredible. That is so incredible. Um, you,
But like you were saying, I definitely the one thing I definitely would add is just I definitely have that feeling. A soul is really a soul, and I would say not only for animals but same for plant life. So
yes.
somebody a soul can come as a tree or a dog or a human, and vice in any order that they wish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In my channeling class, I mentioned, well, we did an exercise where people channeled being a rock, and they
Oh
were so
wow,
intrigued by what they gained from that perspective. You know, we talk about
that
channeling
sounds really interesting.
angels and higher beings and star people and all that, and they were pretty impressed with being able to channel a rock.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so you call yourself an interspecies parent, I think, right? Like,
Hmm.
what is
Yes, I
that,
do.
and what do you mean by that? What's up with that term, girl?
Yeah, I do. I refer to myself as an interspecies mom. I do that to denote that I am a mother, that I am no different than the mother of a human child. I think of my children, regardless of species, are completely equal to biological or adopted human children, and our love is no less. So I like to use the term both mom and then interspecies parenthood, interspecies family, all those terms, I like to use them to bring awareness to that equality, that they're considered full family members in our home.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people actually do feel this way already. I'm not alone in this, but they may just not use the same terms, but they do feel that love and they feel this already. So that's really what matters. But I don't mean that they're little humans. I do respect their species differences and needs. It's just that they're simply equal to me. And I've also only ever felt maternal feelings towards animals. I never wanted human kids, so it was my first choice to be an interspecies mom.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Yeah.
I love it. And it's not always a parent-child relationship. I mean, I just want to add that real quick. There are variations on that. I think a lot of times we think of them as our kids, but sometimes they're more like a best friend or sibling, and sometimes the animals kind of act as the parent figure.
Yeah, I was just thinking, often they are our soulmates. And
yeah, absolutely.
I wonder, why do they grieve so much over just an animal? But, I had a little Chihuahua that was, I think he was 15 when I adopted him. And by the time Hot Rod reached 17, I had to have him put down, and I saw his
I'm so sorry.
body and try to follow me around. And I didn't know anything about this stuff then. And I just instinctively told him, you can't stay with me. You have to go on to the light. I don't know. I didn't know at the time what I was talking about, but I knew to do that. We all know, we actually all know, and we all can remember, but we are here for this experience, and so we forget a lot along the way. But 21 years, anytime I thought of him, I would literally choke up and tear up. And
it's so hard.
Now I'm able to let it go. And I've had animals between then, and I love each of them individually too, like you said, unconditionally, irregardless. But yeah, and I've got another one right now that's like a soulmate too, and I'm convinced that he was given to me at this time in my life so that I could navigate some of the challenges I have. His name is Duck,
Duck?
Yeah, like a bird.
I love it.
When I heard his name, I'm like, what? And he said, Duck. And I'm like, okay, Duck. And so I call him Ducky, and I call him Coach Duck.
I love it.
When he, when he, he's so excited about taking walks, it makes me get up and go for a walk just to see him all psyched out and stuff. So he's my Coach Ducky.
That is so sweet. I love that you call him Coach Ducky too, because that's one of the things I really feel like animals are here. They choose to come in and help us evolve, and they teach us so many things, both in our regular lives and our spiritual lives. In my case, I really got started on this whole path because of my first two cat sons, Juno and Jarvis, who they're in spirit now, but we had adopted them in 1998. And Jarvis had digestive issues, and that is really the only reason I originally went and took a Reiki class, because I wanted to help him. And one of my friends who did Reiki had come over, and I saw him feel the energy, and I saw him kind of push back into her hands as the energy was flowing. And just watching him enjoy that was all the motivation I needed to try it. And then I went and took my first Reiki class, level 1, and I had to do self-healing for 21 days. And to my surprise, I had allergies for 10 years, and they were really bad. I was taking the shots and, all kinds of prescription medicine, and they cleared up in those 3 weeks of self-healing.
That's incredible. Yeah. A lot of people think that we can't heal ourselves, or we can't read for ourselves or whatever. That's not true at all. Of course we can.
Yeah, I was not expecting it, because I did it for him.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And that's that two-way thing with healing too. The healer is exposed to that same energy. How beautiful. And that's expanded to where you're now doing that with animals, like professionally as an animal Reiki.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and it all started with him. I really only did it originally, for just to give him Reiki. That was my entire purpose. And then I sort of, as I kept going, I really fell in love with it. And after doing Reiki for a few years, I think I might have had my mastership by then, I'm not sure, but I noticed that most people say that when they see Reiki clairvoyantly, it's white light coming out. And I normally see with my third eye, but this one time later, a few years later, when Jarvie was actually terminally ill and I was giving him Reiki, I noticed that it was coming out as different colors of the rainbow, like the rays were separated. And it really shocked me because I saw it with my actual eyes. And I found out that this was because animals are more aware of energy, so they're able to choose the ray or the color that they need to help them with whatever they're going through. So since I exclusively do energy healing for animals, mine had just sort of automatically started splitting for that reason.
Yeah. I've heard that cats and other animals are also kind of natural Reiki masters themselves. What do you think about that?
Yeah, some of them will tell you they're kind of balanced and they're okay, but a lot of them just love it. Like they're so drawn to it. And my own cat kids, Merlin and Gracie, when I do sessions, they love to sort of be in the room and they love the energy of it.
I had a cat one time, and my back was having some problems post a head-on car wreck that I had in 2003, and it would lie against my back, and it would literally like massage the parts that were hurting with its paw.
Wow.
Then my dogs sense that, and Duck lies down near my ankle that got fractured in consequence of my second accident in 2000. Not my fault, neither one of them, my fault. and Daisy is she's 13 years old now. She's a Chihuahua Yorkie blend, toothless Chihuahua Yorkie blend almost.
Aww.
I just love her to pieces, and she'll lie down exactly where it is uncomfortable too, which is so nice. And I know they sense it. I know they sense it, But
they're amazing. They're so aware. They get everything. They kind of scan our energies and they can see everything.
But like you mentioned, just like us, we get fatigued in the physical world, and we need a bit from someone that can address that level of our being. And I think that's just spectacular.
I love being able to help them, and they're really receptive, and it's gentle but powerful. And I actually send Reiki during all of my sessions. I start off with the Reiki, and
that I wondered if you combined modalities.
I do. I automatically do the Reiki. And sorry, we were going to say?
No, I was just, you're good. I was going to say, what does a typical, I know there's not a typical session because I can't tell you what a typical session looks like, but you have the gauntlet or the gamut of reasons that people come to you or bring their animals to you. So what are some of those?
Yes, I'm sure. I do ones that are only, like mostly energy healing, with a little bit less communication. And in those, I kind of just focus on helping to heal either physical or emotional issues that the animal may be having. It could be sometimes when they're a little bit older, it could be like chronic, some kind of a disease or illness that they have, and it can help alleviate symptoms. Sometimes they've had surgery, so after surgery, or it's great to give them a little bit of help. It's really, oh my gosh, there's so many different things that it can help them with. It's also really great for anxiety, for animals that are very sensitive. Sometimes things just get overwhelming, and a lot of animals take their job as protecting us energetically very seriously. So like you said, they can get drained, and it helps them to have a little bit of extra help.
Yeah.
And then for the communication sessions, I automatically do send Reiki also, but then my focus is especially on asking them questions. I will ask the human companions to give me some idea of what they want help with or what they want to know about.
I support that.
Yeah, and it's, it's really the whole range. I mean, it could be that they just want to understand them better. It could be, the really end of life ones. Sometimes they want to know if the animal is ready. Sometimes there might be some kind of a behavior going on in the home that somebody wants help with. And what I usually tell the human companions is that sometimes people will ask me to tell their animal something. And it doesn't really, help for me to tell them something. Usually what is helpful is for me to sort of get the animal's perspective.
But yes.
Because they can hear their parents telling them. They don't need, it doesn't make any difference if someone else is going to tell them.
Yes.
So what I do instead is I get the animal's perspective on what's going on, and there's almost, there's always a reason for our behavior. So if if we can find out why exactly they're avoiding their litter box, or why they're barking at something that then generally it will take some kind of a compromise from the human to make the to help the situation get better, so that
and understand. Yes. Yeah. I love that little cartoon. You sometimes see it on Facebook or something like that. And it's like this dog, and he's talking, I think, to one of his other dog friends or the cat or something, and just saying, like, I saved him 5 times from the being murdered by the postman. And I said,
exactly. Exactly. They, so in their mind, there's a reason.
And at a certain level, it's true. Maybe it is protecting us against some things that are harmful. You had alluded to them being kind of like living spirit guides or something. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I would say both. I think a lot of animals, when they live with us, they do, guide us and help us. I've even had a lot of animals lately that are specifically requesting for their parents or their humans to start, trying to connect with them in a more sort of meditative way, or in dreams. But then I've also had animals who've crossed over, who are in spirit, tell me that they want to stick around sort of in spirit form to help their parents. They feel like they can help better from that place, rather than reincarnating immediately and kind of being their next companion animal. And I know that's hard for people, because you miss them, you want them to be back with you in physical form, but they're often sort of behind the scenes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Did you hear from your clients things like, I sat on the bed and I could feel them walking across the bed after they passed, or I was lying down and there was a weight beside me, or something like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear that a lot, and they always find unique little ways to let them know. And I think a lot of times, like you're saying, if you're talking about the bed, when someone is sort of in between sleep and waking, it's a little bit more of a receptive state. So I think that helps. Or they'll show, when they show me images, they'll show themselves sometimes lying in the same spot that they would lie, with their person, and things like that.
Aw.
They find a way to bring comfort.
Or they catch them out of the corner of their eye, or just think of them.
Absolutely.
Wonder if they're there. Yeah, they are.
Yes.
but of course, when you do your sessions with humans for their animals, then it goes a lot deeper than, yes, they are present.
Yes. Well, I think it helps to know. Like I had one lovely client who had actually made sort of a shrine for her dog that crossed over, and it was really beautiful, with photos and candles and certain types of statues. And what was lovely is her dog actually showed me this shrine in the session. I didn't know about it, and she showed me an image of it with all the things on there. And then not only that, but she told me that she was present, when they were doing it. So that was really meaningful for her to know that the dog had been there watching them, sort of honor her.
That's so beautiful. And that's wonderful evidence on your part too. Good job.
Well, it was all her doing it, because she gave me the information.
Oh, she told
you.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, the dog told me.
Okay, right. Well, that's what I mean. Great evidence.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes. Oh, that is so cool. What would you say to people that are connected with animals and have that, save the animal, I want to help animals feeling? Because there are
Hmm.
a lot of empathic people that's
Yes.
very much the focal point of their energy.
There are so many, and that's one of the reasons I try to be very, to talk about this a lot. I consider them strong hearts, and the reason I came up with that name is because I feel like a lot of people that have, like me and like you, who have a deep sensitivity for animals, sometimes are criticized for this, and they might be called soft-hearted or too sensitive or even childlike, and it's sort of a shaming mechanism. And in my opinion, it's actually an incredible strength to be able to feel this way and to still, function in the world and to be a voice for animals and to speak up for them. So I use the term strong hearts, and I really want to empower all of us to be proud of our compassion and of our kindness to animals, and to use this
Yes.
strength of heart to be a voice for them, to lead the way in educating that animals are our equals and find ways to help them.
Oh, that is
And I
so beautiful. That is so
thank
beautiful.
you.
I love that you.
And I feel like it can be, it can be anything. Like, I feel like I'm a big fan of teaching by or showing by example. And it can be anything from, rescuing insects, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're the person who goes to your neighbor's house to rescue a spider so they don't kill it, or it could be, just making sure that you pay attention to buying cruelty-free cosmetics and household products, or, considering helping wildlife by certifying your garden. And there's just, all those kinds of little ways. And I'll also think sometimes just by talking about it, because, like we were talking before about grieving for an animal that crossed, just sharing it, and, so sort of publicly sharing it so someone else doesn't feel alone because they,
Yes.
love that animal more than they love the person or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It popped in my mind. I've seen on one particular occasion, and it's actually a prophetic thing rather than has happened, but an animal being the 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 entity that chose to greet the person when they crossed over. And
Mhm.
it's my mom. Just she hasn't passed yet, but
Oh.
and
Mhm.
she's fine. Like, it's not,
Mhm.
when it's her time, and like all of us.
Mhm.
And I hope
Mhm.
it's a long time from now because I love her dearly. But it was really interesting to sort of project out of time and space and to see her greeted by her dog, Cindy,
Mhm.
running across the field toward her. And, you know, the reaction that she had as a spirit of coming out of an older body, very cautious
Mhm.
about moving, that kind of thing, and looking up and seeing her animal on the other side of the field. And as she ran, she became younger and younger and younger. It was so beautiful. It's just beautiful.
That is beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love that. And that goes along with just, showing how important they are to us. There really is, they can
Yes.
occupy a space just as important, if not more important than some humans. And I
Yes.
actually had oh my gosh, one kitty that crossed over. Um, his dad actually wanted to know if the kitty would be the one to greet him when he crossed. And this was when the cat answered this, it actually brought me to tears because there was so much emotion. And the cat basically made him a promise. He was like, I promise, Dad, that I will be the first one to greet you when you do. And
Oh,
it was, I was in tears.
that's
It was so
so
beautiful.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. We look as people, humans, for love. We want
Hmm.
to, we overlook it sometimes. We don't recognize the love that's constantly
Hmm.
around us in nature, in our pets, in that we don't
Hmm.
equate that equally with that. And we miss
Hmm.
the picture. We're missing the big picture because they're there for us too. Absolutely.
Hmm. They're such a gift. I treasure every minute with mine. And I think part of it also, if you've ever lost an animal companion, then when, like I did with my first two sons, they died of old age and illness. And now I have younger ones. And it's sort of like, almost like now I realize that you realize that loss will happen eventually. And you sort of, it sort of, for me, it encouraged me to treasure every single second with them.
Oh, definitely. That brings me to the idea of like, what have you noticed that animal companions most need or ask for when you talk with them?
Yeah, and of course they're all unique, but one of the things that I hear a lot is that they really want dedicated time together where their humans are really just engaging with them, like maybe not while they're on the phone or distracted. They're okay with that too, but they want really time to connect. Another thing that this is a little bit more on a practical end, but enriching environments for them. If we have jobs where we work, sort of full time, we're out of the home, it's really nice to find a way to place things in the environment that make it more interesting for them. Fresh air is really good. A lot of them lately have been asking me about fresh air, and maybe because it's winter, but especially for cats because they don't get to go for walks if they're indoor only. So having like a catio set up or even a little playpen that they can go outside, or opening the window if you have screens. But, and then like I mentioned a little bit earlier, a lot of them have been asking for humans to sort of, their human companions to tune into them a little bit more. They're wanting to sort of have their people go to that next level of connecting with them intuitively. And I do get that a lot of them already do this, just maybe not in a conscious way. Because I think a lot of people sort of already can feel what their animal is feeling to some extent. And I think also everyone is capable of doing this.
I'm going to ask you, I'm sure there are listeners that are like, oh, well, I would love to be able to do that more.
Yeah. I believe everyone can do it. It's really just like learning a different language. And I think, of course, some people, are maybe born with it as their native language. And for some, it might be easier and they might have a facility with it, which causes it to come more naturally. But I believe that with practice and dedication and trust, everyone can communicate with animals and with spirit.
I do too. I don't adhere to the sort of, I think it's probably archaic by now, but the thought that, all people are psychic, but not everyone is a medium. I think that's absolutely not true at all. Because
no, I think everyone can be, for sure.
And people have spontaneous experiences all the time.
Yeah.
The difference between someone having a spontaneous experience with an animal on the other side, or with an animal here, or with a spirit on the other side, is disciplining that gift so that it becomes deeper. And you spent quite a bit of time doing that, even though you had a natural gift to begin with,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think that's why I always throw in trust, because I think when there are the spontaneous type of occurrences, sometimes we talk ourselves out of them.
Right.
So I think that's part of that is just sort of trusting, like, oh, yes, that was really, my animal giving me that feeling. It wasn't my imagination kind of thing.
If I was, I know, I have one question. You had sort of mentioned the altar that lady had built to her pet. Have you, what do you think about honoring your pets in spirit, and how could people do that better maybe?
Yeah, the main, the most important thing that I get from the animals about honoring them after they've crossed is really, they love it just when you can keep them present in your lives. So sort of still talking about them and maybe having photos of them around. One kitty cat in England, actually, her parents had specifically asked for something that she might like, and she wanted an oil portrait done of herself.
Oh, nice.
Which is really sweet. But she's a very fancy cat. But not all animals require or ask for anything like that.
But portraits are done by a master artist.
I thought that was neat.
but that's interesting. And it was suitable for that particular animal and that particular.
Yes.
Yes.
family. Yeah. And but they just want the humans to realize that they're just a thought away. And they ask sometimes when they were ill, towards the end of their lives, they ask for their family to remember them when they were well, to focus on the happy memories.
Oh, like
And
the other side. Yes.
yeah, and
Like
just to remember that. And
yeah.
exactly. And sometimes they'll show me a specific, like, they might, if they were having trouble maybe walking or running, they might show sort of the way that they ran at a particular time in their life, when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
I had a dog recently that she had a very distinctive kind of run. It was almost more like a gallop. Or like, so she showed me that so I could, tell her parents. And really, they always stress that the love is forever, that, it doesn't matter where they are, that they're still, connected to their loved ones.
Oh, that's really lovely. I can feel that touching some people that are listening right now. Yeah, nice reassurance and knowledge of
I think
that.
it's very comforting. I know just from experience of having two of my cat sons in spirit, for me, it's, I don't know how I would do this, go on if I couldn't communicate with them and know that they were there around me in spirit.
Sure, sure. Tell me, we're getting close to the end of the show, so I was wondering
Mm-hmm.
if you would be willing to share something people could do to maybe develop their ability to communicate, something that you found helpful,
Yeah.
exercise, whatever. Share with.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a couple, oh gosh, I don't have a meditation prepared, but one of the ways that that's really helpful is to really get into your heart. And I know that's kind of, I don't know if that's a clear thing to say, but if you can imagine that your consciousness is sort of in your brain or your mind most of the time, if you can kind of picture it dropping down so it's more in your heart center or your heart chakra. And then if you can imagine sort of a beam of light going from your heart directly to theirs, and doing this in a moment when you're calm, quiet, not a lot of things going on. And then as you see it connecting to their heart, asking your animal maybe a simple question, not something very, very, very tense, just something very simple, and then sort of waiting a moment to get something back. And what you get back could be anything. It could be, everyone has different abilities. So it might be, clairvoyant, where you see something in your mind, or it could be, a song that pops into your head, or it could be simply a feeling. So I think it's important not to judge what you get, because it could be anything, but just trusting that what you're getting, especially if it comes very quickly, that's a really strong sign that it's coming from them and not something that you thought of.
Good
And
principle.
I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sigrira, it's been a joy to have you on the show. I really appreciate your being here with us. And
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
you're so welcome. And if you want to see Sigrira, then you can visit her website at sigrira.com. And for our listeners, remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing. See you next week.